Football Club, under their player-manager Kenny Dalglish, have become only the third team this century to win the First Division Championship and the FA Cup, the marvellous double in the same season.
May the 10th, 1986, Liverpool's first League and Cup double, won at Wembley Stadium and at Everton's expense. One with a history-making player-manager at the helm, Kenny Dalglish. May the 29th, 1985, tragedy unfolds at the Heysel Stadium in Brussels. 39 people die at the European Cup final. A dark cloud hangs over Liverpool Football Club.
It was desperate. In the summer, you just couldn't stop thinking about it. It was a massive blow, and the personnel at Liverpool took that blow as well.
The coaching lads chatted away and thought, was there any point in being a footballer if things like this are going to happen?
When you experience these things, it's always difficult to try and get yourself back to the way that things used to be.
Was going to need a lot to lift players, supporters, everybody involved with the football club. There was huge spotlight on the club, there was huge spotlight on English football.
It's not the sanitised game that it is now. It was just a part of that period of football which I don't think anybody's proud of.
It was almost as if you'd reached the edge of the cliff, you'd gone over it, and now everyone stepped back and went, we can't carry on like this.
With this shadow of Heysel in the background, with the eyes of the nation were on Liverpool, there was a feeling that the city was almost on its knees.
You look around and it's cold and it's miserable, it's grey and it's wet and nobody's got a job, nobody's got any money, but they'll find the money to go and watch the Reds.
We've come off a winless 85 season. We are now banned in Europe.
When you go one season without winning trophies, you ask yourself questions, what's wrong?
We weren't sure. We really weren't sure exactly what was going to happen.
It was a trying time for everybody.
On the very morning of the match in Brussels, news broke of Joe Fagan's intention to step down as Liverpool manager. Bob Paice's trusty sergeant and successor was ready to retire. The guessing game as to who would really look within for their next manager. Kenny Dalglish, the team's talisman on the field, was the surprise appointment. With the club reeling from the consequences of Heysel, Dalglish took on the double role of player and manager.
That was good for me because I could say I wasn't failing. I could give myself a day off. Nobody could argue with me. The thing went really smoothly, and it's a fantastic credit to the players. I had fantastic knowledge, help, support. Tom Saunders was there, Ronnie and Roy stayed. All Bob came in to help me. If you're given a manager, Jordan, you've got arguably the most successful manager in football history beside you. He was totally humble, supportive, appreciative, and a fantastic help to myself. Then you're giving yourself a bit of a chance.
Nobody had any instinct whatsoever that Kenny Dalglish was going to take over as manager. It was unheard of, player manager back then. It was a an abstract concept. So all of a sudden, one of the players is a manager. That's kind of weird.
I think he thought long and hard about taking it, and going from being a player into that job as player manager was exceptionally difficult, because it's always been them and us. Right, and now he's he's them, and there's no halfway house.
Kenny had to step away from the players now, and when he walked in the dressing room, it all went quiet. You know, can't let Kenny hear.
He was still one of the lads, and you wondered how his mindset was going to change. And in fairness to him, it didn't change that much.
Kenny just took it in his stride, and for the first time in a long time, in the past years, we actually heard Kenny Dalglish speak.
Kenny was hugely respected. There was kind of an aura about Kenny. Everybody looked up to Kenny. Not only was he a great footballer, he was a very shrewd character as well. I think Peter Robinson and co at the time, Sir John Smith, knew exactly what they were doing.
They were good enough to offer me the job. I think it was only right for me to say, well, I'll have a go.
Within weeks of taking the reins, Dalglish had made changes, significant changes to the team. Phil Neal, Liverpool's most decorated player of all, had been made club skipper just a year earlier. Dalglish looked to a new leader in his dressing room. Alan Hansen, his close confidant and fellow Scot, was handed the captain's armband.
Well, we were playing Brighton, pre-season friendly. I'm sitting beside him, and he had a ball, and he goes, "You take the ball." And I've gone, and I never ever took a ball out. I was like superstitious. I said, no, I don't take that. He said, "Are you stupid? You take the ball, you're captain." And I went, oh.
It was always going to be Al. We knew it'd be Al.
It was universally, yeah, right decision. Obviously, change.
He was the next one on the conveyor belt. He was the one within the squad you would have given it to.
He was just such an outstanding player, obviously very bright, very intelligent.
He was the one probably that was closest to Kenny, so he could liaise between the players and Kenny with not a problem.
Jockey and I are really good friends, and we came at the club a few months apart, but I never gave him it because he was a good friend of mine.
I never wanted to be captain, and I never felt like I could be captain. So I said to him, we're having a drink, I said, "Why do you make me captain?" He says, "Because I thought you were lucky." Because I thought you were lucky. Oh, thanks, Kenny, that's great.
If he's sitting playing cards and he gets 17 at Pontoon, by the way, there's nobody else in that squad would get a 4. He would have a much better chance of getting a 4 before anybody else. So I thought, well, that'll do me, and I just had to back my judgment, and that was the first major decision that I had to make.
It was the beginning of the end for Phil Neal. Along with the other fullback fixture, Alan Kennedy, Neal was to be phased out of the team. By November, the decorated duo had both departed Anfield. Their young understudies, Jim Beglin and Steve Nicol, took their places in the team.
Phil Neal and Alan Kennedy were going to be hard to replace, but the big thing here is if Steve Nicol and Jim Beglin were useless, then you've got a major problem. But I watch Steve Nicol and Jim Beglin every day in life, and I know that there's no problem there.
Stevie Nicol was one of those players that could play any position. He had the energy of Phil Neal.
As good as Neely had been, and he'd been absolutely outstanding. When you look at his record, it's just absolutely fantastic. But Neely knew Stevie Nicol could play right back, played left back, played a spell in midfield, and then Jim Beglin also had broken through.
Long before I got in the squad, somebody had told me that Alan Kennedy had been watching me in training, and he was starting to become a little concerned, which I was obviously pleased about.
I think they signed about 7 left backs in Alan Kennedy's time at the football club, and he saw them all off.
He maybe felt that he a little bit longer, but I think Kenny felt that maybe those two guys had done their bit.
Sometimes that's what you have to do in football. You have to keep progressing. Guys who have been absolutely magnificent servants for the club, sometimes they have to move on.
I knew I was kind of having big boots to fill. I think Stevie Nick likewise, and thankfully we seemed to kind of take to it.
We never signed too many players. There were a lot of changes made, and they appeared to be seamless.
A core of experienced multi-medal winning players remained, though. The likes of Grobbelaar, Hansen, Lawrenson, Whelan and Rush were still central to the new manager's plans. But it was to the fringes of his squad that Dalglish looked for fresh inspiration. Some of the players that had struggled the season before now came into their own.
I felt that somebody finally appreciated the effort I was putting in. Even though I'd been at the club, I didn't feel like I was a Liverpool footballer. And I think Kenny Dalglish, he sensed my frustration. Kenny's got a way of motivating without motivating. He didn't put an arm around me, and he didn't encourage me as such. He challenged me. And he says, if you really think you're good enough to get in this team, well then prove it.
In those days we didn't carry massive squads. It wasn't accepted not to play, and I was under pressure. I'd been involved in 22 First Division games. I was struggling with a lot of aspects of the English game. But then Kenny came, and I think Kenny had seen something that maybe Joe hadn't seen, and he wanted me further forward. I think that saved my time at Liverpool. I think it's as straightforward as that.
It was a strange start to the season. The post-Heysel European ban applied even to the club's pre-season warm-up matches. No prestige friendlies on the continent this year. The Reds toured the northwest before venturing south to Brighton, Bristol and to London. Back on Merseyside, 4 senior players had undergone close-season surgery. Phil Neal's testimonial against Everton brought the summer's fine-tuning to a close. On the eve of the campaign, expectations were mixed at best. It seemed like a time of transition, not a time of triumph.
The team that year was not as good as the previous teams I had playing in. We'd reached the final of the European Cup and the semi-final of the FA Cup, but always in the back of my head I thought just a bit short.
You kind of look around the dressing room and thought, oh, we've been through Heysel, we had a poor season last season. I'm not sure whether, you know, if we really fancied ourselves.
Expectations-wise, we probably didn't think that we'd win the league because Everton had won the league really well the previous season. They had a great side, an exciting side. Maybe the balance of power in the city had shifted and that Everton were worthy favourites.
They trailed in quite a distant second to Everton, so it was clear that Dalglish had a number of issues to solve. Liverpool had had real difficulties replacing Graham Souness. Souness was 2 players in one. He was the hard man in midfield, put the foot in, win the tackles, but he was also, you know, the supreme creator as well with tremendous vision.
I don't think we went into the season feeling as confident as we maybe should have done.
New player manager, I thought maybe top 4 in the league.
We never set any targets other than to do the best we possibly could.
I think we probably underplayed the fact there was a massive determination to win something. And we were used to the pressure because, you know, every pre-season you came in and all the papers would go, yeah, what do you want to win this year? And all our lot always said, anything. We'll take anything. And it's true. And everyone seems to think, yeah, they really mean the league and they mean this and they mean that. And we didn't. It was just like, win something.
The new football season kicked off today amid tough new measures to deter hooliganism. There's more crowd control in and out of grounds, more all-ticket matches and a ban on alcohol. There are no television cameras at grounds in England and Wales as no new agreement has been reached to televise matches.
The first proper game since Heysel.
I'd never known pressure like there was that day. It was just absolutely immense.
Even from day one of Heysel, we always thought the spotlight would be on us.
The world's press with it. I think they were looking for us to slip up or for something to happen.
The thing I remember about the Arsenal game was what happened just before.
A service had been planned almost as a note of apology really for Heysel.
We renew our sorrow for that terrible disaster in which Liverpool was involved.
It was away from the Kop, it was towards the Anfield Road end.
The speakers in the Kop weren't working properly and people couldn't really work out what was going on.
The Kop started singing You Never Walk Alone really slow.
And that was the Kop's way, I think, of expressing regret.
You look back at it now as a sort of lament type of thing to say we're still thinking of what happened.
But at the same time, sort of in their own way saying it's time for us to move on, you know, what's done is done. As a football club and as a support base, we've got to take the next step.
There's nothing like getting back to what you do. So being out there on the show in our Liverpool kit, representing Liverpool Football Club, was the right thing to do.
That day it went pretty well. I mean, I think I set up one of the goals for Ronnie.
It came to me very quickly. I think it was Lukic in goal. Before he even got ready to set himself, I'd pushed it past him in his near post. It was the first goal of the season and it set us off.
Arsenal at home was a difficult start for us, but the boys were fantastic. We won 2-0.
When we came into the dressing room afterwards, you could actually feel the sense of relief, and it was like nobody really wanted to say, thank God that's over, but everybody just sat there thinking, wow.
Then we all gained in a little bit of confidence and sort of said, okay, we can get on with our jobs now and do what we do best, is trying to win football matches.
The opening week, and a point against Aston Villa was followed by a sobering defeat at Newcastle. Anfield remained a bastion. Liverpool scored 10 goals in their next 3 home games. And in mid-September, at newly promoted Oxford, Dalglish handed a debut to his first major signing, an ex-Everton player, Steve McMahon.
Liverpool had tried before, I think, to get him. Kenny made him a priority.
I thought Maka would be a good help. Fortunately, it turned out to be.
With all these players, you can tell within 5 minutes of getting them, if they're any good. But with Steve McMahon, he was every bit as good as we knew he could be.
We'd all had dealings with Maka in derby games against Everton when he was there. We knew he's one that's going to fight.
There was a dearth of Scousers in the team as well, so it was good to be getting, you know, a local presence into the squad.
He was a Liverpool player. He was perfect for it. He never shirked from looking to get on the ball. He always wanted it. In terms of the pass and move culture that existed then, he was just absolutely perfect for that. He did take our game on another little bit. He was certainly a really good addition.
The battle for supremacy on Merseyside rarely holding more national significance than this.
If you win games against Everton, Manchester United, or whoever's up there competing with you, it just seems to have that little bit more depth, a little bit more kind of feeling. I don't think we could have dreamed about the start we got.
Oh, the goal! What a start from Liverpool! It's a magnificent goal by Dalglish. Well, I was just saying they're one-offs, and that's a one-off from Kenny Dalglish.
He's hit one in for 25, 30 yards, right in the top corner.
Probably one of the quickest goals we've ever scored.
What was it, 25 seconds, 26 seconds from kick-off, bish back. I don't think he touched the ball, Everton, and we're 1-0 up.
Don't ask me to repeat it. I went in. That's the most important thing.
Stevens, Whelan's away, and here's Rush, it must be done! Ian Rush makes it 2-0 to Liverpool. Dalglish, so dangerous with his back to the goal. McMahon! 3-0.
In no time at all, it seemed. I think we'd gone 3-0 up.
At one stage, it looked like it was going to be like a 5-0 again.
It was too easy, and we stopped a little bit, and I just remember they went route one. We were under all sorts of pressure.
Now, Bracewell, was that a hand there? Shot! Top on back. Bracewell again. Lewis Heath, surely.
By the end of that game, we were clinging on by our fingernails. I mean, Everton have got 2 back.
We are really hanging on.
They struck the woodwork a couple of times, Lineker and Sharp.
We have to do it for 90 minutes, not for maybe 40, 50 minutes.
We were a little fortunate to get away with that one, but at the time, exactly what we needed.
It was a kind of landmark victory for that season.
Despite regaining the local bragging rights, Liverpool were trailing in second place in the league. The back-page headlines were being written 30 miles away. Ron Atkinson's Manchester United had made a blistering start.
Played 10, won 10. Well, they'd won the league after 10 games.
The Daily Mirror, in particular, which was commonly known as the Daily Mank at the time, really sort of elevated them to this early season status as preordained champions, and that, you know, that was annoying.
You look at them and you think, well, where are they going to slip up? If you win the first 10 games, you've got a great chance of winning it, but it's not always the case, as we know.
And in fairness to our guys, it was something that never really worried us.
There was no real concern.
Everybody looked at it and said, yeah, okay, let them have it.
We kind of loved all that. If other teams were being talked up, they get a little mention in the team talk beforehand, and it's just another little stir.
Bob, Joe, Ronnie Moran, Roy Evans, Kenny, just keep going.
You'd always be confident because you're not that far behind, and you're as good as anybody that were in the league. You know you're as good as anybody.
I've never seen the league trophy handed out in September of year.
We still felt we were always in a race.
The race was on, but United kept Liverpool at arm's length. First versus second at Old Trafford on October the 19th was billed as a heavyweight title eliminator. Craig Johnston put the Reds ahead just after half-time before United fought back to pinch a point. But it was only the second time all season that they dropped any points. Liverpool had served notice.
I don't think we held them. I think they held us. We played very well. Alan Hansen knocked one onto the bar at the end, but we could have scored before that to put us 2 up.
Having put the brakes on United at Old Trafford, Liverpool won their next 5 league games. November was a bad month for Big Ron and co. Their 9-point lead was suddenly down to 2. With Dalglish directing from the sidelines, usually with the number 12 on his back, Paul Walsh shone in the famous number 7 shirt, scoring 5 goals in as many games. And now Jan Molby, signed from Ajax a year earlier, was beginning to fulfil his vast potential.
You could tell Jan was multi-talented. You know, he left foot, right foot, awesome, absolutely awesome. For touch and technique, he was without a shadow of a doubt in the top 3 best I ever played with.
After sort of an early start, I started to get amongst the goals, and I became the free kick taker and I became the penalty taker, which all added goals, and then your confidence sort of increases, and then of course you get sort of a pivotal moment.
That pivotal moment arrived on November the 26th at Anfield. Manchester United were Liverpool's opponents in the League Cup, the Milk Cup as it was known. It was graduation night for the Great Dane.
Anfield was rammed that night, rammed. The Kop was absolutely bouncing. It was so packed, it was unbelievable, and the noise, it was unreal.
Manchester United were top of the league at the time, and they came to us, and I think Liverpool fans weren't sure about our team.
United went into an early lead, but obviously second half, Jan and his legendary goal.
Just came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he's picked this ball up.
It's the roar really of anticipation as he progresses towards goal.
And I'm right behind him. And he's hit this thing. It just went, oh. We all just stood there and we went, wow. It was like unreal.
Mulvey takes it off right side and then comes forward powerfully. The Dane just past Clayton, Blackmore as if he wasn't there. Mulvey all the way into the penalty area. What a goal! Jan Mulvey with a 40-yard burst. An absolutely unstoppable shot.
The place absolutely erupts.
Can't really remember a goal more wildly celebrated on the Kop itself.
It was something from some sort of medieval paintings. There was people still going berserk a full 60 seconds later, like veins popping out of their head.
This was a chance for Liverpool to get a landmark victory. It was about putting one over on United, really, in the same way as they had done over Everton.
We kind of look for that stamp of approval where the fans go, these are okay. And I think maybe that was the night that the ones who've done it all, the Hansons and the Rushes and all that, they probably looked and went, we'll be okay with these.
Success stories are rarely without unwanted twists though. Liverpool suddenly went cold with the onset of winter. They managed a solitary league victory during December at home to struggling Aston Villa. They were still in the hunt, still on the heels of the league leaders, but the scent had gone cold with defeats away to Arsenal and Manchester City and a handful of disappointing draws. Merry Christmas? Not.
There's always some stage in the season when it's going to be worse than what it should be.
If things are going well, the press, the media, the fans love you. When things are going not so well, then everybody picks up on it.
There were some wrong decisions, yeah, of course there was.
People quite rightly start asking questions.
Football is about opinions. At the end of the day, once he made his decision, we backed him.
As the new year dawned, a long-running dispute between television companies and the Football League was eventually resolved. A ban on televised football was finally lifted, and when Liverpool travelled to Watford for the first league game of the season to be screened to a mass audience, normal service was resumed.
Good afternoon and welcome to Match of the Day from Vicarage Road, home of Watford Football Club, for their Canon League First Division match against Liverpool.
We went to Watford on a Sunday and it was a big thing. You were then aware that everybody else was watching.
There's many excuses that we make that we're not interested in what people say or write, or believe me, we listen to it all. We turn up in that white kit, you know, on a muddy pitch. Watford in those days was a very, very difficult game, you know, with John Barnes and the likes.
Watford started like a house on fire.
His jacket, and that's a good try, and it's a goal.
We go goal down and I suppose there were millions of people around the country saying, well, maybe was this the end of Liverpool?
And then we took over. We managed to get the 3 goals that we needed.
Walsh, yes! Craig Johnston's cross. Rush, yes! Oh, it's a bit short, and here's Walsh. No doubt now.
I think a lot of people would have switched off that time and gone, yeah, it's still that same old Liverpool, isn't it? You know, they find a way of winning matches.
Liverpool's return to form against Watford coincided with the start of an FA Cup run.
And there's the famous trophy.
Cup heartbreaks had become the norm in recent years. The weight of past glories and the famous old competition seemed to hang heavy.
And the cup belongs to Liverpool.
The spotlight was huge. If you got to the cup final, then it was just one of the great occasions in world football.
I think it had an equal ranking with the league. What made it even more important in the eyes of Liverpool fans was we hadn't won it for 12 years.
I've been at Liverpool since 1980. I'd won the league, I'd won the League Cup, I'd won the European Cup, I'd won everything but the FA Cup.
There was a real desire to see Liverpool in another FA Cup final.
We'd had a little bit of experience the season before when we got knocked out of the semi-final after a replay. So we were aware of the importance.
Maybe our expectation was that we might not win the league and that the FA Cup might be a more realistic proposition in terms of a first trophy for Dalglish.
On to McDonald.
I loved that game. That was my first FA Cup game. Norwich are top of the second division. I spent more time in their half playing as a sweeper because they couldn't cope.
This could be number 3, and it. Johnston. Whelan gets it. Whelan's header. And a good save. But the ball turned in by Walk. It's 5-0.
It was a massacre. When you get drawn against Norwich at home, you go, that's us into the round 4. But then when we get drawn in round 4, Chelsea away, you go, maybe it's going to be another year before we win it, because that's a tough draw.
Stamford Bridge is Liverpool's bogey ground. Chelsea have knocked them out of the cup here twice in recent seasons, and this afternoon, backed by a full house, they go for the hat-trick, as Liverpool go for the one trophy that's eluded them in their triumphant last decade.
We're sitting in the dressing room and like, right, let's go, and we're going to do these here, and you know, and I'm thinking to myself, we've got a horrific record here, and you know, I was always negative and pessimistic. I'm thinking, we've got a horrible record here.
It's not a great draw, but do you think it's a good draw for them? It doesn't matter what the history is.
Nobody dared speak about having a bad record at Stamford Bridge because that was taboo.
They were a good team. It was a really aggressive atmosphere.
Just go and play. We'll see what we get.
Now, Lawrenson with a chance, and Rush possibly with a chance, and Liverpool, right on the stroke of half-time, have got into the lead. Nicol, Walsh, Lawrenson!
It was a great result, and that was the one that set us on our way.
And then you start in, you're getting closer than that, and you think, we just need a bit of luck with the draw.
Now let's have some more action as we pick up York City from the 3rd Division against Liverpool, a repeat of last season's match that went to a replay at Anfield where Liverpool won that 7-0.
The York game was played on an unplayable pitch.
The pitch is frozen.
And Kenny went right to the referee and said, you ain't playing this game is off.
So what do you do when the pitch is frozen? You call it off? Of course you don't.
And the guy said, no, it's on.
You put a pair of training shoes on and you're playing your training shoes. And you skate around on the pitch, you know.
The ball was bouncing everywhere, and it was one of these where we could easily have got turned over.
It was a really, really tough game. They made it hard.
The beauty of the FA Cup was that you could go anywhere and you'd have a match, you'd be up against it.
Ball win, and here's Gary Ford! York had the lead!
They scored, then we got a fortunate penalty.
Situations like this may be their best chance rather than in free play. Is it a penalty? A hand was used from Dalglish's free kick. It's Jan Mulby from the penalty spot. 1-1.
Thank God for that. We're going back to Anfield for the replay.
And then in the replay, we made really hard work of it.
They should have beaten us.
We were 1-1 at home in normal time, and Sunday played a ball into our box.
Keith Wallen went through and I'm running back.
Brucey came for it round about the penalty spot, and Keith Wallen went for it and actually beat Brucey to the ball, headed it in, but flattened Brucey in the process.
There is a collision, but if he allows a goal, effectively we're out.
I just remember like looking at Hansen and him looking at me and we're going, we're out.
I can't remember who the referee was, but yeah, he was on our side.
Referee gave a free kick. Wasn't.
Never a free kick in a million years. But sometimes the breaks go for you, sometimes they go against you.
Went into extra time and scored twice and won 3-1.
While good progress was being made in the FA Cup, it was the Milk Cup that was providing Liverpool with an alternative route to Wembley. A semi-final against Queen's Park Rangers. What could possibly go wrong?
I remember at that time thinking, this is a great chance to win the trophy. We ain't going to win the league. We're still in the FA Cup, but this is the one that we can win.
We absolutely blew it against QPR.
We lost 1-0 away on the plastic. And then you go, in those days, great. We only lost 1-0. We come to Anfield, you know, and this won't be a problem.
We would never ever be complacent, but I thought we were going to hammer them.
The second leg, everything went wrong.
I suppose this is what cup tie football is all about. I mean, QPR at home, you never get a better chance. And we just didn't take that chance.
I missed a penalty.
Saved by Barron!
And we scored 2 own goals.
Oh, and an own goal!
I've got to hold my hands up because I played a part in that.
Jim kicked one off me. Ronnie Moran said to Jim, you panicked, son. Oh, I got away with it.
And it's touched in! It's another own goal.
It spun off my left foot into the bottom corner. Bruce had absolutely no chance. We drew 2-2 and that put us out.
How we didn't get to Wembley that year after that game, it was just ridiculous.
That's the final whistle, and Rangers go through to the Milk Cup final on an aggregate of 3-2.
It was a tale of woe, really.
Elimination from the Milk Cup came at a testing time for the Reds. Despite an impressive win over fellow title hopefuls West Ham in January, a surprise defeat to lowly Ipswich followed. Not the best preparation for a crunch match at home to Manchester United.
Colin Gibson, Hughes, and Colin Gibson's through. He's there again. It's a goal. Well played by Jim Beglin to Sammy Lee. And Sammy Lee was caught against the post. Johnny Walk. 1-1.
Then, at the end of February, came a Merseyside derby tussle that would live long in the memory. Everton memories.
Oh, yeah.
Richardson. Now Alan Harper. Ratcliffe joining in. And
You know, when you want a big hole to open up and swallow you, that's what I wanted.
Kevin Ratcliffe never used to score a lot of goals. And I remember him stepping over the halfway line. He's probably about 10, 15, 20 yards maybe inside our half.
He's mishit it and it's bounced 8 times before it got to Bruce, and Bruce let it in.
Literally our back four just turned it and started moving up the pitch.
Kevin Ratcliffe portrays this as one of the best goals he's ever seen. It goes under my arm, my body. I knew for the next week there's no way that I could be going out shopping in Liverpool, because you're going to get stick from the Liverpool fans for sure, and the Evertonians are just going to have a go.
Can it be 2 for Everton?
2-0 we got beaten. That was a body blow.
And then it was like, whoa, we ain't going to catch them.
I just remember coming in and there wasn't a lot of words said because sometimes there's nothing to say.
When they beat us, we think maybe that's it. We were really angered by that, and that was a huge blow. That really knocked us.
You're 8 points adrift from Everton now. How do you see the rest of the season from the Liverpool viewpoint?
The season's just starting, really. The fact we're points behind makes it difficult, but I tell you, there won't be one player in there that won't be trying and to win the league, and if he is showing anything other than 100% commitment, he won't be here.
I came home after that and I said to Marina, I said, they won't beat us again this year. If we get them, they won't beat us.
I think that was the sort of what I always call the Liverpool moment, where all the players look at each other and go, listen, there is no more time to mess around, there is no more defeats. You lose one more game, it's over.
I just remember thinking there's no way back for this side.
Ratcliffe joining in. And Grobbelaar! Saved by Barron! Can it be two for Everton? It's another own goal. And Colin Gibson's through. He's there again. It's a goal. Everton have a very significant victory.
The story now seems to be kind of Hansen going to Dalglish, his good mate, player, skipper, going to player manager, saying this team is not going to win anything, not good enough.
I said to him, I said, look, this is the worst Liverpool side I've ever played in my life. This team's going to win nothing. He said, I think we've got decent spirit in the camp. If we can get a result and get a bit of momentum, and momentum in football is everything, then I think we can still achieve. We're still in the cup. Anyway, it was the next week we played Tottenham.
Liverpool haven't actually won a league match here at White Hart Lane since December 1975. They hope to break that sequence today to keep in the race for the title.
We went out the pitch, it was frozen.
Let's call it off, of course not. On comes the training shoes again and we played.
And Grobbelaar stretching and in! Glenn Hoddle's corner seemed to confuse Grobbelaar completely.
There's just no play. It's impossible to play.
Big worry, because we hadn't played, but kind of worried with a kind of a confidence that we could overturn it.
That was Hansen heading down, Thomas miscued, and Rush played it back, and Whelan fired it, and it came to Mulvey, and that's the equaliser.
There was a real hard, tough, uncompromising professionalism where these guys were winners.
We could somehow find a way back, because we'd done it repeatedly in difficult situations, late goals.
Here's Whelan, rushes through the middle, danger here, and Rush, and a goal! They have done it!
I think that was the biggest goal of that season.
Kenny Dalglish thrilled to bits, and Ian Rush, from a pass by Whelan, poked out his right foot and scored off the post what must surely be the goal that keeps Kenny Dalglish's team in the championship hunt.
That team had resilience, that team had resolve, and there was a determination that kicked in then.
We went from being a side that never really knew where the next result was going to come from to thinking, can't get beaten here.
They all had fantastic belief in each other.
Most footballers who play football are not winners, are they? So winning is not for everybody. Winning takes something special, isn't it? And we have that in abundance.
Nobody's invincible, but you just felt really confident.
I tell you what, in football it's a wonderful feeling to have.
And that was the start, and went on a fantastic run.
It was absolutely amazing. It was like a roller coaster.
12 goals in the next 3 league fixtures signalled a new Anfield intent and significantly reduced Everton's lead. The Reds were back in the title race, and so was their player manager. Dalglish started 13 of the last 16 games. It was just like the old days.
I think when he came back in, I think it was a real injection of talent, first of all, and I think it gave the lads a massive lift.
It wasn't a tactical decision. It was It was forced upon us. Walshy was brilliant in the first half of the season, and then he got an injury, so I had to come in.
He's 34, 35 at this stage of his career. He's still a quality player.
Kenny coming back into the side gave us a calm. It wasn't any panic anymore.
It was just the fact that he was with us, you know.
Everybody's level just got sharpened that little bit more.
The title race was now being run back and forth across Stanley Park. It was a local issue. Liverpool were hunting Everton down, but not once all season, and Liverpool's name appeared at the very top of the table. Not until Easter Monday. On that March the 31st, Manchester United, remember them, held Everton to a draw.
Everton's 1 point put them on 70, which meant that Liverpool had to win by 2 clear goals to overtake them. A challenge serious enough for the manager to play his trump card himself.
If you want a game ground on anybody, you've got to win your game. So whatever anybody else does is irrelevant till after they've all finished.
Headed by McCarthy, here's Mulvey, rushes in there, oh, and it fell to McMahon! McMahon has scored! Dalglish, here's Mulvey, and now Johnston, and he fires it across, McMahon! He's got his second!
We won the game, they drew, we got with advantage, so it'll do me fine.
Neck and neck now then in the championship race as Liverpool take maximum points here thanks to an ex-Evertonian. Steve McMahon, scorer of both the goals. The second one important in the sense of goal difference, the way the championship is balanced now, and Liverpool show, especially with the return to the side of the player manager, that they are going to contest this every inch of the way.
And what a great time it is to be ahead. I mean, if you get yourself in a position at Easter and you're at the top of the league, you've got a really good chance of winning it.
Liverpool were challenging strongly on 2 fronts now. A week after the Milk Cup disappointment, a chance to put things right in an FA Cup quarter-final.
Well, we played Watford at home first, and we drew 0-0. I think they hit the post, and we got away with it a little bit.
The replay date was announced for the following Monday, and you could just see on the M6 and on the M1 going down that thousands were going.
Watford are a decent side. We go there, it's a hard game.
I'd given the free kick away on Worrell Sterling, and Barnsley stuck it away, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get the blame, we're going out of the cup.
We were goners.
But the support was non-stop. The atmosphere inside the ground is probably the loudest that I can remember, certainly at a domestic away game.
There was thousands coming from everywhere. It was unreal. Our support was awesome.
And ultimately it drove Liverpool on to get an equaliser late in the game.
Rush available on the edge of the penalty area. Clipped in towards Ian Rush. He's got the pace to get there away from Coden. Penalty, is it? Yes, it is. The referee has given a penalty to Liverpool. And Tony Coden, the hero so far for Watford, concedes the penalty, which gives Liverpool a lifeline.
You need a bit of luck, and I think we had that bit of luck in that quarter-final.
Nobody sort of went to take the penalty. Kenny looks at me and he goes, are you going to take it or what?
I just felt confident he was going to score.
I went, yeah, okay, yeah.
You knew Jan was going to score.
I knew he was going to score.
The only thing that worried me was because we were playing in mud, and I thought, I don't like to lift my penalties. Do I roll this in the mud, you know?
And there can't have been a more crucial penalty for Liverpool in many, many seasons. There are 4 minutes left to play. And Liverpool's Wembley dreams hang on this penalty kick from Jan Mulvey. Right-footed, he scored! The big Dane has done it! And Liverpool are still in the FA Cup.
It was very much game on. Lo and behold, Russia came up with the winner.
Flicked onto Dalglish, edge of the penalty area. Rush peeling away to his right. Edge of the box now, Ian Rush onto his left foot. Shot, it's there! Ian Rush has struck the back of the net at last. And that could be the semi-finals for Liverpool.
I'm surprised people are surprised that Liverpool could do that, because the boys were phenomenal.
I don't think all that season at the dressing room was ever any better than it was at Watford that night.
The one thing that was on our mind that night back on the coast from Watford was Wembley. The lads had all played at Wembley in a lot of games, but I don't think any of them had ever played in an FA Cup final. So I think the thoughts were, what will that be like?
We dodged the bullet, and I think we thought, this is going to be our year.
The big question now was, could Liverpool avoid Everton in the semi-final draw? Fate was taking a hand on the road to Wembley.
At that time, it's one of the biggest games you'll ever play in.
If we'd have had our choice of the three teams you could have drawn, it would have been Southampton.
We were strong favourites to win.
No disrespect to Southampton and Mark Wright and Jimmy Case, but we were going to Wembley. I think it was as simple as that.
7 minutes to 3, you're down the tunnel and you go out, and I expected to win.
Because we'd lost out the season before, there was always that extra little bit there.
Nobody wanted to make mistakes. It was like a chess game.
Liverpool had the best of the game. Shilton was in his usual gravity-defying form.
Good work by Shilton from Craig Johnston. Stopped again by Shilton. Whelan. How about that for a confident piece of handling?
Disappointments in semi-finals really played on your mind, and you thought it could happen again.
Wait a minute, we're not winning here. It is very, very tight.
Southampton made it very hard at White Hart Lane. Again, it went to extra time. We weren't making it easy.
And you think, well, one mistake either way and you're out.
Just felt like, you know, Southampton could nick one on the break and, you know, you'd be heartbroken all over again.
Wallace is free on the far side and Nicol gets it away. Only as far as Dennis driven in there, just over.
I never for 1 minute thought that we were going to lose it. It was a matter of time.
Getting to that part of the game, of course, where exhaustion starts to take over and the odds, crucial mistake might well creep in. Mulvey now trying to get beyond Bond, and there was the mistake, and there was the goal by Rush.
Yeah, Mulvey had the ball and I knew what he was going to do. I knew he'd try and play over Kevin's head, like, and I just had to try and read it. I just took a chance there, and Kevin didn't quite get his header back to Peter Shilton, and I just nipped in and just put it past Shilton.
Oh, good run by Nicol. Oh, still going on. And another one by Rush.
What about the second one?
The second one was a bit different, where I think Nicol got the ball, he beat about 4 or 5 players and just slid the ball to me, and I put on my left foot. And I heard the gaffer shouting to me, I think he's going to have a go at me, but as soon as the ball at the back of the net, I think, well, just couldn't believe it.
And what a prospect awaits us, the final whistle. Liverpool get through to Wembley. What an occasion that'll be. And of course, Ian Rush and the Liverpool fans will say, it may not end there. The double could be on for us, it could be on for Everton.
It's probably in many ways a better feeling than winning, you know, because we're now going to Wembley.
It is the best feeling ever. I mean, you can take the semi-final of the European Cup, and you can take the semi-final of the FA Cup. And I think probably because I'd never been to an FA Cup final before, it was just can't believe how good it was. Couldn't believe how good it was.
It's the first time since I've come to the club that we've got there. So obviously everybody that's in there, it's their first time as well. And obviously everybody's absolutely delighted.
It's a trophy that has eluded Liverpool for 12 years. Who knows what 1986 holds in store for them.
In the other FA Cup semi-final at Villa Park, Everton beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. Merseyside was the centre of the football universe again, or at least that's how it seemed as the scramble for tickets began. A first ever all Merseyside FA Cup final, the derby of derbies, and the prospect of it bringing a first ever League and FA Cup double for Everton or Liverpool. A Game of Thrones, serious stakes.
If you started going around the dressing room talking about the double, then you get kind of slammed down.
You'd never do that in front of all that, ever.
The fact that we were in the cup final was kind of put on the back burner a little bit.
We weren't thinking about that. We were taking every game as it happened.
It wasn't even mentioned. It was like, who are we playing Saturday? Oh yeah.
You kind of get ahead of yourself, you know your rewards if you get results. So just concentrating on what we're trying to do here.
Everything at Liverpool was always about coming down the stretch, how you could handle the pressure coming down the stretch, what you were like coming down the stretch.
Priority was always the league title, and that was always your #1 goal.
It was business as usual. Same sort of thing as it had been from the first game.
Make sure you don't lose.
Don't let us buckle, because somebody else might buckle. And that's what Liverpool were great at throughout the history of time, was that coming down the stretch, we were always stick together, be as a team. But this time, coming down the stretch, I'm thinking like we've got no chance, you know, and we were better than ever.
They were rampant. Ronnie Whelan claimed the match ball as Coventry succumbed to a red tide at Anfield. Craig Johnston's goal edged a tight encounter against Luton Town on the plastic pitch at Kenilworth Road.
Here's Dalglish now in towards Rush. Johnston! Dalglish played a major role in that, and Johnston finished in style.
West Bromwich Albion were then narrowly beaten at the Hawthorns. And with just 3 games remaining, Birmingham City made the trip to Anfield. It was a day for an unlikely hero to step up.
Little flick for Johnston. Kept his feet well as Hagan went in. And now Whelan arriving late again. And this time it's in there. Gillespie getting up underneath this one. And his header finds the back of the net. Well, here's Mulvey with a chance of making it 3-0. And Seaman went the right way but couldn't hold it. Here comes Gillespie. Rush. 1-2 with Gillespie. Trying to play it back again. And Gillespie, his second.
So we're winning 4-0 and we get a penalty. Jan had actually scored a penalty during that game. I never think anything of it. I'm just expecting Jan to pick the ball up, which he did, and go and take the penalty. Then all of a sudden from behind me, there's just this wave of noise coming from the Kop. Gary Gillespie. And they want me to take the penalty kick. And I'm thinking, oh Christ, right, what am I going to do here?
Now a header and a close range shot after an interchange with Ian Rush for his 2 goals. Will the penalty be the 3rd and a hat-trick for Gary Gillespie?
Fortunately, I put it on the spot and managed to smash it to the right of the goalkeeper and got my hat-trick.
Whistle, and another big step towards Liverpool and the championship thanks to the hat-trick by Gary Gillespie.
3 vital points for Liverpool, and what an unlikely hero as well, Gary Gillespie. Liverpool have now opened up a 2-point gap, and those 5 goals today really give a big upturn in Liverpool's goal difference. They're now 9 ahead of Everton.
After the result that you had, you would be looking how Everton had done.
Everybody was looking at the Everton result, and then it's like one of them, yes, that helps us.
You could see them, they were kind of starting to stumble, knowing that we were coming.
That just builds momentum as well.
Footballers, if they're up for it, they hunt in packs because they can smell blood.
There was a real sense that Liverpool had actually become the best team over the running.
You've seen it in the horse race, and you've seen it so many times, and you then realise that, you know, they're there to be caught.
And you know, if you've got the opposition retreating, it's an animal instinct, and you hunt like wolves. It's almost like a tornado sweeps up stuff and doesn't stop for stuff.
Everton still had a game in hand and fate in their own hands. As the title race drew to a close, that was all that separated the noisiest of neighbours. April the 30th. Liverpool's game at Leicester kicked off later than Everton's at Oxford. On an evening of missed Gary Lineker chances and the Manor ground, Liverpool seized the moment at Filbert Street.
That was the night really where it all changed, because although I've described Liverpool sort of chipping away at Everton's lead, unless Everton slipped up one more time, then, as I say, we couldn't do anything about it.
You probably would have expected Everton to win at Oxford more than us to win at Leicester.
And Dalglish gets away with Rush going on the left. On the right he's got Craig Johnson. This is Rush. Yes! And Whelan coming forward. There it is! Number 2. Coming from nowhere on the left. Leicester didn't spot him.
We were in the away end at Filbert Street, and our game was done really. We were 2-0 up early. People on our transistor radios that telling us to score from the Everton game, and the message was coming through that Everton had conceded this late goal.
Into the last 2 minutes. It's John Truitt, right-footed, into the penalty area. Hamilton's there, controls the ball, peels away, right-footed shot from Phillips is there, and they've got it. May well have ended Everton's cycle bit.
A tremendous roar from the other end.
It was just, I mean, even on the pitch we almost stopped. I think they're getting big, you know. So you kind of go for somebody who's on the touchline, have a word with the fans, you know. That's got the radio. Have a word.
Dalglish came down to take a corner, and he's got his ear cupped to the crowd, and he's hearing this commotion, and obviously people are gesturing to him or shouting to him that Everton had conceded at Oxford, and he just did this massive thumbs up.
They're getting beat 1-0, get in there, you know. It was incredible. I mean, pivotal moments, you know, and things that you remember. What a great feeling that was. They're getting beat at Oxford.
And the great thing about it was that we had 15 minutes to celebrate it, because their game had kicked off 15 minutes earlier than ours. All of a sudden, Liverpool's end was just like in a ferment, really. It was out of Everton's hands now, and we gradually ebbed away at that lead, and we finally got to a point where we were in control of our own destiny.
Liverpool keep the sprint going right to the end. 31 points from the last 33, absolutely remarkable. And they know, by the indications from the crowd when they go into the dressing room, that Everton have lost. One more win for them, and the championship is theirs.
I remember that night when we came back from Leicester. Ian Russ and me went for the drink.
A few of the Everton players were in there.
Ratcliffe and whatever. We just went, you know, we're going to do it.
I said, Jan, we've got to play Chelsea away on Saturday. He said, we'll win that, don't worry.
It's ours.
I said, you can't be saying that, Jan.
Maybe we shouldn't have said that, but it's, you know, it's the banter, isn't it?
They have more confidence than I did. I didn't like going to Chelsea ever. It was just a difficult place to go and play.
I wouldn't say I was kind of 100% we're going to go and win at Chelsea. I could see us getting a draw.
It was Liverpool's title to lose for the first time all season. May the 3rd, 1986, Stamford Bridge. Kenny Dalglish's Liverpool on the brink. The championship trophy had been away from Anfield for quite long enough.
When the fixtures come out, everybody said, could you imagine having to go to Chelsea, last game of the season, to win the title?
What a climax to the league season. Liverpool looking for their 8th championship in the last 11 years and needing just one goal to take their league total to 89, which would be the highest First Division aggregate for 18 years. And a huge turnout of Liverpool supporters at Stamford Bridge.
Chelsea away, you know that if you win, you're going to win the league title. Thousands went to that again, thousands.
Huge following of 10 to 12,000 Liverpool fans.
It was just a wall of red and white and yellow.
I mean, the Kop basically turned up at Stamford Bridge at one end, and it was sensational to have that. The fervour, the excitement was off the scale.
Chelsea in blue have only won one of their last 9 matches here at Stamford Bridge. A poor sequence which started when Liverpool won here in the FA Cup. That's Lawrence with the header.
It was a poor pitch. It wasn't easy to play football on it. And Chelsea were a pretty good side, and had some good players.
Speedy and Dixon up front who caused us lots of problems, especially Speedy because he was just a knot. But I thought, because you forget that we had golden balls in the team, didn't we?
Halfway through the first half, Gary Gillespie and Jim Beglin have come forward here.
I think maybe because Chelsea had so many back, I ventured a little further forward. And from the corner there was a kind of a partial clearance, and I managed to sort of smack one.
Beglin! Off the line! Was it in? No!
Rather than back off, I just hung around because we managed to kind of keep Chelsea pinned in. And I always remember the ball arriving at Ronnie, and he got a little header. And I was aware of Kenny just been to my right side. Rather than control it and try and turn, I just flicked it on first time.
And Dalglish is in here. Yes!
I just took my chest and stroked it away.
The player-manager scores the goal that may edge Liverpool nearer to their 16th championship.
Where we were standing, we were near the front, and so we had a full view of him, his face and his body as he chests it down and just knocks it in.
The way Kenny took that was, on his chest and knocked it past was absolutely superb, and so fitting for a playing manager to do that.
For me, it was lovely to have a little part in that. Still hasn't thanked me.
Whelan trying his luck from long range. On by Beglin again. Dalglish inside the box. It's there. Kenny Dalglish has scored for Liverpool. And that could be the goal to make Kenny Dalglish the first ever player manager to lift a championship. It's certainly a huge step in the right direction.
You know, a moment like that, it's indelible really in your memory. It was like slow motion.
And Dalglish is in here. Yes!
And obviously the end went absolutely mad. To get in front relatively early was obviously fantastic, and the fact that it was Dalglish, you know, it was the story was right in itself, wasn't it?
Half-time arrives with Liverpool in a position to clinch the championship. Thanks to the goal in the 24th minute by their player-manager.
I wouldn't say it was plain sailing. It was a tough game.
Chelsea did give us a few anxious moments.
Speedy, chance, and wide. McAllister's there, and that one flies across the goal as well.
Chelsea did have one or two little moments where they troubled us, but nothing major. We coped with the pressure really well.
I didn't think at any stage that we were in any sort of danger at all.
And Grobbelaar's coming for this. That was excellent goalkeeping.
But we defended really, really well then. You know, Bruce and Alan Hansen and everyone. And you know, again, I think we had that little bit luck against Chelsea.
Nevin. Now then, Lawrence's tackle. Referee was very close. It was on Speedy. He has not given a penalty.
Jimmy Owen match of the day actually highlighted the tackle, and I got the ball, but you know, for that split second you think, oh my goodness, if the referee's only seen it from behind, he might give a penalty, so it was a little bit, whoops.
Always in the back of your mind, you know that one mistake, one piece of whatever from them, and if it goes to 1-1, that's it, finished.
He's just seconds away now. Liverpool Football Club have won the First Division title for the 16th time in Kenny Dalglish's first season as player manager.
The relief, you can see it in everybody's faces when the final whistle goes. I mean, it is absolute euphoria. I went ballistic, and the reason I went ballistic is because when we'd won every other title, we were always in contention, always in front, always favourites. This time, we came from absolute nowhere. And to go to Chelsea last game of the season and win, it was just such a wonderful feeling.
And Kenny Dalglish salutes the fans as they applaud him, knowing that the League and Cup double is now on. Should Liverpool beat Everton in the FA Cup final next Saturday, well, they can give Dalglish not just the freedom of Glasgow, they can give him the freedom, I should think, of the whole of the football world.
I think for everybody it's special because at the start of the season there was a real spotlight on the club. There's been huge changes. I don't know if there was a great deal of optimism about ourselves. I don't know whether people were looking to and hoping that it would be the demise of Liverpool Football Club, and for the boys to turn around and win the title, it was fantastic, and know that they've got an FA Cup final coming the following week. It really sent out a message that no, they're not finished.
Again, no one said win the cup final next week, we win the double. It was like, let's get on the bus, let's have a party.
Quite rightly so. It's the only way to celebrate when you win trophies. So that was great until the bus broke down.
And the bus that came for us to pick us up was an Ellison coach, and it happened to be the Everton team bus. So I mean, how ironic was that? That the day we win the league, and obviously, you know, from Everton, their bus actually took us home the last kind of 100 miles to Melwood, and just a bit mad, wasn't it?
The actual crowning of the Kings of English football was a curious occasion. 3 days after the momentous win at Stamford Bridge, 4 days before a seismic FA Cup final, Norwich City came to Anfield for the Screen Sports Super Cup semi-final. Nobody was bothered about that.
They're all looking forward to the cup final on Saturday, and everybody's thinking now obviously about the double.
Well, we're the only team that's got a chance of doing it, aren't we?
Well, Liverpool have had chances in the past and have failed. 1977.
Well, this season we haven't.
The build-up to the cup final to me was not easy.
That was one of the most intense times I had going into a cup final.
The build-up actually starts about 3 or 4 days before. The European Cup final traditionally was a Wednesday night, and the build-up to that started the day before. This is a 3-4 day build-up where everything's going off.
The nerves of being in this goldfish bowl, you couldn't walk out the house without everybody making a comment either way. You know, I love you or I hate you.
There's always a fear against Everton. You know, I didn't fear playing against Man U or Tottenham or anybody in cup finals, but playing against Everton was the fear that you're going to let so many people down within the city.
It was like having butterflies in your stomach for a couple of weeks beforehand.
You know, you're not going to get a load of Man United, Tottenham fans running around Liverpool shouting that they've won, but you will get a lot of Evertonians running around shouting if they win the game. That was the intensity of that game.
I can still remember it now. I would physically feel a little bit sick, and that's not an ideal preparation for a game.
Now, you see, we'd had the '84 Cup final, but this one now was the big one. This was the FA Cup. This was the one we all wanted to win. Now we're going for a double. Everton are going there to try and stop this double.
Funnily enough, I'd gone out with Kevin Ratcliffe for dinner the week before we played Chelsea, and it was for the national newspaper, and we agreed that we'd take one each. You know, if they get the league, we'll take the cup. But then, of course, when we won the title, we were wanting the two of them.
What you kept reminding yourself was the fact that we hadn't won this FA Cup for 12 years, and it had an importance all of its own.
The reason I came to England was the cup final. You know, I want to play at Wembley in a cup final, not the League Cup, not in an international for Denmark, which I'd done. I wanted to play in a cup final. You know, the one thing you remember when you were a kid, and there it was.
And a tremendous reception for the player manager.
In those days, the FA Cup, I believe, was bigger than the European Cup final.
I don't think you can compare this with anything else, what happened in the rest of Europe. This is the cup final everybody's talking about.
I'm a nervous wreck at the minute. It's just unbelievable. I can't wait till 3 o'clock to get in the pitch.
Well, I was always nervous. The FA Cup final was probably the biggest game at that time I played in my life. Then you get to Wembley, and because it was Liverpool-Everton, I will never see a finer sight in my life than Wembley Way with the Blues and Reds together. It was like it was magical.
Arriving at Wembley, isn't it? There's 100,000 people in it. Having a little look at the pits and on your Wembley suits. Believe me, the Wembley suits were nothing special off the peg, but it was a Wembley suit. In the dressing room before the game, can't wait 15 minutes before kick-off. You get the call to go and stand in the tunnel, the longest tunnel in football.
And of course, when you get in the tunnel, the nerves disappear, but then they keep you in the tunnel at that time for 10, 15 minutes, and then you come out the tunnel and you hear this crescendo noise. It was something you'll never ever forget. And I mean, by that time I'd played in 4 European Cup finals. I'd never ever experienced anything like this. This was like bedlam.
Let's check on the teams then. Liverpool with Bruce Grobbelaar in goal, and a back four that now has Mark Lawrenson installed, with Gary Gillespie having gone down with a virus infection. In the midfield, Kevin MacDonald gets a chance as a centre midfield place alongside Jan Molby, and up front, inevitably, Kenny Dalglish and Ian Rush with 31 goals this season.
We didn't play well enough in the first half to give the impression that we were going to win the match. And that wasn't necessarily us playing badly. That was just them being in control. They used their qualities. You see from the goal, Lineker's pace.
Reed. Lineker off through the centre again. This is promising. Lineker for Everton. Saved by Grobbelaar. Lineker. 1-0 to Everton.
I think he got in behind Al, didn't he? I just remember Al chasing. I couldn't have caught him.
Well, Hansen the pundit would have slaughtered Hansen the player. I mean, they broke every rule in the book. When Rudy chips it through, the golden rule is like you either push up and let him run and go offside, or as soon as he's gone, I'm reading he's going to hit it, just turn and run. But I'm caught between the two of them, and I'm going sort of like that.
And Grobbelaar says.
It went down to my left. I got a hand to it and I parried it. He got there first and slid it in.
And Everton are in the lead with Lineker.
We forgot to play. We really seriously forgot to play.
Everton are now threatening to really take over this game.
They played, we hadn't.
They were very compact. They made it very, very difficult for us.
It was a kind of a fight, and little passages of football would break out, and Everton were playing the passages of football.
Sharp!
We kind of put a couple of little hopeful things together, but not too much.
Into the path of Johnston, and Mims did well.
First half, we weren't great.
We were a little bit sort of timid in the way we played. We hadn't really taken the game to Everton.
We knew we hadn't played well. We knew we didn't reach a level that we knew we could.
That was one of the worst games I played that season. My legs had gone, and I felt like, oh, can't wait to get off here.
Half-time whistle, and Gary Lineker's 40th goal of the brilliant season has given Everton a one-goal lead in this cup final against Liverpool.
I remember thinking, it's half-time, we're 1-0 down, I haven't had a kick. And I thought, it's passed me by, I've blown it.
Half-time we came in and Ronnie Moran went ballistic.
It was Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans walking about the dressing room telling us to play our football. There's no complicated message, it was very simple.
Well, it's never great when you're 1-0 down, obviously, but it's, again, you've got to try and lift them up.
And that's what they were good like, the likes of Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans. They'd say, listen, they'd give you the confidence to go back out there. You need to improve, yeah, but only 10% and you win the game.
Half time, I just said, we've got 45 minutes left. Just give it the best we've got and we'll see what happens.
And in all honesty, if Everton had scored a second, we'd have been toast. They would have beaten us easily.
If it goes 2-0, it's over. You don't come back against this very good Everton team.
And in the second half, Brucey and Jim Beglin nearly came to blows over something.
Bracewell. Sharp is still there. And he's still there. And Grobbelaar seems to be at 6s and 7s with Beglin, as you might gather from that. Unrest in the camp.
He was known to get a bit excitable, Brucey. That's the way he was at times.
I shout to Jimmy Beglin, Jimmy, just leave it, I'll pick it up.
Trevor Stephen is there, and I'm thinking he could get a foot to it, and I thought, I'll just put my foot on it. But Brucey had obviously planned that I was going to let it run.
Ricochets around, I'll pick it up and I'll push him.
And for a moment, I wanted to kind of give him one back. But of course, everything flashes through your mind. I'm thinking, the whole world's watching. The stadium is absolutely jam-packed. I need to hold it together.
And I said to him, Jimmy, don't you understand English? He says, no, I'm Irish.
Little things like that can happen time and time again on a football pitch. But as soon as the game was over, we clinked glasses in the dressing room. It was gone.
And I think, you know what, it was almost like the pressure went then. It's like, come on, let's just start playing.
I wish I had a quid for every time a Liverpool fan over the years has said to me, that woke us up. That got us going again. That just seemed to kind of give everybody a start.
Here's Whelan. Mulby. And here's Rush, onside. Ian Rush, goal. The referee was knocked over in the excitement, but Ian Rush has equalised for Liverpool.
There's a mistake somewhere along the line, and you know, unfortunately with Gary Stevens, he's passed to Ronnie Whelan.
He looked to be getting tired for some reason, Gary Stevens, and I'd sort of guessed that he was going to put it where he did, and I sort of stretched and got it, and once he gave it away, they'd got people out of the game then, and it was now trying to get a quick attack going.
2 against 2. And they kind of know that with Rush's movement and his pace, they want to stay together for as long as they can. But eventually, Mountfield will have to come, because otherwise I'm going to run through, isn't it? And the moment, he sort of blinked before we did. And that then allowed us to play the pass in behind.
Made the run, Jan put the ball in space. I put my right foot past Mims down there and knocked it back.
Yes! 1-1!
It was amazing. That does give us a strength to get better and better.
Once we'd scored, I think we were all up for it then. Everybody was ready to go on and win the game.
And of course, they know the history of Liverpool over the last 20 years, isn't it? And they would have probably inside their head some mindset, I can't believe this has just happened. Here they come again.
Here's Rush. Dalglish is up, so is Mulvey here. Dalglish, no, Johnston, yes! 2-1 to Liverpool. Craig Johnston. What a turnaround.
I just kept running and running and running and running, thinking, well, that's all I can do, because I'm not getting a kick. And then Mulvey got the ball on the left. And all I remember is, okay, this is it, get to the far post, get to the far post, get to the far post. I went through Kenny's legs, and it just sat up perfectly, and I thought, hang on a sec. I said, this cannot be this easy. And it was slow motion, like people talk about it, and everything was quiet. And then all of a sudden, the place erupted. And I jumped up in the air and I said, I've done it, I've done it, I've done it.
We've had 2 goals in 6 minutes, and Everton's lead is wiped out. Now Liverpool are in front. Mulvey again. Oh, I say, his vision there was lovely. Whelan. And Dalglish, and Rush is on the far side. Is this 3? It is!
Yang got the ball. I think he passed it to Ronnie Whelan on the left.
Where I had the ball when I come through from midfield, I was sort of facing Rushy that way.
And they come through, and Kenny went to the left, and I came to the right, and Ronnie had to decide whether to give it to Kenny or to me.
I knew Kenny had run across that way to the left, because he was moaning at me as he run past.
I was shouting, don't pass it to me.
I wasn't too sure about Kenny going to score on his left foot. I just felt if I could get it over Ratz's head, Kevin Ratcliffe, and get it right on Rush's foot, he was going to score anyway.
Luckily from my point of view, they gave it to me, I controlled it and smashed it past the keeper to make it 3-1.
I was so happy he scored, because I would have got some stick off Kenny if he hadn't.
No, it would have gone both ways, wouldn't it? If he'd have pushed it in behind, I'd have squared it and Rushy would have tapped it in. But I liked the other one.
It's famous, it's in the camera and breaking the camera. But it was something special, and then I knew we'd won.
Ian Rush and Liverpool have become stronger in their running power, and Gary Lineker and Everton really have faded in that striking force up front.
Isn't that just Liverpool down the years, though, Jimmy? Stronger in the championship race, too, on the final straight. And Liverpool Football Club, under their player-manager, Kenny Dalglish, have become only the 3rd team this century to win the First Division Championship and the FA Cup, the marvellous double in the same season.
We've done it. We've won the double. Magnificent.
To go and do the double as we did was just incredible. I mean, I'm in dreamland.
I was absolutely delighted and thought, you know, when you're a young kid and you're fit and you're enjoying your football and nobody's in the world, isn't it? And you go, is there anything better than this?
We found ourselves in the right place at the right time, end of the season, to win the 2 trophies, and I don't think I'll ever be as happy as I was then.
It was a fairy tale, really, for us. We had a fantastic run in to win the league. We got to the final and we had a great second half.
It was just an achievement beyond belief. And then to be lifting the trophy as a double winning captain was probably better than anything I ever did at Liverpool. It was absolutely awesome.
They've had tremendous moments in Europe. They've had success here in the League Cup. They've won 16 championships, 8 in 11 years, but never before have they won the League and Cup double. And now the moment is here. What a consolation for Alan Hansen in the week he was left out of the Scotland World Cup party. These cheers, sweet music to his ears, and to those of Liverpudlians everywhere. Liverpool have won the double.
Celebrations afterwards were even better than Rome 84 or Paris 81 or Wembley 78, simply because we won the double out of nowhere. You know, nobody expected us to win the double.
Well, you said to anybody involved in the football club that that year you would win a double, they'd have carted you off.
For us to produce a season like that showed the world that this football club is not going to go away.
It's something very, very special to do the double, and it's something which I'll never forget.
If the only thing I'd ever done in my career would win the double in 85-86, that would have probably done.
I could die a happy man, because what I set out to do years ago, I'd done it. So nobody could take that away from you.
Beating your great rivals, greatest ever rivals, the greatest rivals there'll ever be, pipping them to the league, the last game of the season, and then beating them in the cup final to win the double. Until now, I'd never ever thought about how bad they must have felt, because I was just over the moon. I've literally overjoyed. Does it get any better than that? If we beat United to the league last game of the season, it wouldn't be as good as that. It wouldn't.
It just doesn't sink in. It doesn't sink in for ages. And when I say ages, it's not months, it's like years and years and years.
The amount of success that the football club had, it's unbelievable to consider that never had won the double.
It was one of the biggest achievements at my time at Liverpool. You know, we had won the European Cup, we had won the title, but we'd never won the title in the FA Cup.
There is other teams in the history of Liverpool Football Club that would have been better, and 87, 88 was certainly one of them. But we had a togetherness, we had a belief, we had a mentality that just got the job done.
For them set of lads to get together and go and win the double, which the Barnes-Beardsley team didn't do, which the Souness, Dalglish, Hansen teams didn't do, I think that just brings it into perspective of what these lads achieved that year. The great teams of Liverpool never won the double, but this set of lads won it.
In the space of 12 months, the club had regained its winning rhythm, regained its pride, its focus. Against all the odds, they achieved a marvellous double. It is an achievement that remains unique in Anfield history, a feat that should never be underestimated, a triumph that will never be forgotten.
If you don't enjoy winning a league and then the next week winning an FA Cup and walking away with a double and creating history, I think you've got a big problem. No get any better.
I'm going to the cup final, lads. I'm going to Marbella.